Back with Right to Life Radio. Our thanks to Autumn Lindsay Higashi for being our guest. And now, joining us, not a special guest. Well, he's special
in his
down.
own particular way.
His being a guest is not exactly special. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council. How's it going, Jonathan?
Hey, John. It's good to be here after a busy pro-life week. I mean, gosh, in the last week, you guys had the big event with Autumn, and we had the
California
20th anniversary gala and the March for Life.
Yeah. So Jonathan's organization, California Family Council, had their 20th anniversary gala on last Sunday, and the California March for Life last Monday, at which I accidentally wound up speaking at the last minute. I wound up saying the closing prayer because the normal closing prayer did not show up, so that's all right.
Yes. And it was kind of a bummer because we were going to have, he was actually the rector of the cathedral, Father O'Reilly.
You don't have to put him on blast.
I know. Well, I don't want to call him out. I would just say we were disappointed he was unable to join us.
Well, he lives in Sacramento and we're here in Fresno, so maybe. Although our listening audience to Right to Life Radio is worldwide.
That's true.
International. So anyway, well, thank you for joining us, Jonathan. All right, we've got some important California pro-life stuff to discuss, and it has to do with Walgreens and Gavin Newsom. No, it's not the fact that Walgreens is closing more and more stores in California because Gavin Newsom doesn't want to lock up any criminals. Nope, it's basically Walgreens deciding to comply with other states' laws regarding the abortion pill is making Gavin Newsom so furious that he wants to cancel massive contracts that the state has with Walgreens. So let's give the context here. The abortion pill, which is a two medication process that results in the termination of a pregnancy up to 10 weeks into it, the killing of a baby up to 10 weeks into pregnancy. And the abortion pill, the active ingredient is this pill, mifepristone, which the FDA has loosened regulations on. One of the things it has done in the last 2 or 3 months here, the Biden administration the Biden FDA loosened regulations around the abortion pill to allow the abortion pill prescriptions for it to be fulfilled at normal major pharmacies, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, etc. And Walgreens, all of the major pharmacies jumped at the opportunity to dispense the abortion pill. Apparently, they had no moral qualms about doing this. However, a number of states outlaw at the state level the distribution of the abortion pill. So a number of different state attorneys general wrote to Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, et cetera, and advised them, hey, if you may not distribute the abortion pill, you may not fulfill prescriptions for the abortion pill here in Texas, here in Oklahoma, here in this state, that state. There are about 20 states that have laws on the books that would prohibit the distribution of the abortion pill. So they basically, these different attorneys general have written to all these major major pharmacy chains, and told them, hey, you can't distribute the abortion pill in this state. Walgreens announced to comply with those state laws and the dictates from those attorneys general, said, we will not provide the abortion pill in these pharmacies. And let's remember again, it's only been like 2 or 3 months that pharmacies could have the abortion pill available. Walgreens has basically just said, in states where it's not legal, we're not going to do it. That's all they've said. This has outraged our governor. This has outraged Gavin Newsom. He took to Twitter, and he's doing this more and more. A lot of people have noticed this, that Gavin Newsom seems less and less concerned with California and more and more concerned with what's happening in red states where he is not governor.
That's John, one of my favorite responses to this trend, as you mentioned. You shared, I think, on Twitter a National Review article from a couple of months or a couple of weeks ago where he was talking about the fact that I think more than half of the tweets from Gavin Newsom over the last month are attacking red state governors. Yeah, so Newsom is spending most of his time on Twitter. Most of the tweets he issues are just attacks on, usually it's either Greg Abbott of Texas or Ron DeSantis of Florida, basically criticizing them for this, that, and the other, everything under the sun.
Very little talk about like stuff over which he has authority, like here in California. So Newsom has said that California is not going to do business with Walgreens for this horrible act of providing. We're done. Not going to, for this horrible act of them, quote, putting women's lives at risk by not providing the abortion pill in states where it's illegal. Putting women's lives at risk with, again, no sort of self-awareness that, like, 3 months ago, nobody was doing this.
That is the most hilarious thing, John, on this. I just have to say, the KCRA article. And to be fair, KCRA interviewed KCRA 3, sorry, it's the NBC affiliate up in Sacramento. NBC television affiliate. And I appreciated the fact that they interviewed me, and I thought they did a reasonably fair job.
You were interviewed.
I was interviewed, but the thing that you mentioned there, specifically your point, that's what jogged my memory, was the specific wording they used made me just both laugh and kind of throw up my hands in frustration. California Governor Newsom tweeted from his personal account, blah, blah, blah. The tweet came days after Walgreens decided to stop distributing the abortion pill in 20 states, following legal pressure from Republican leaders of those states. I don't actually think they have even started.
Right, exactly. It's not
because they're not approved by the FDA yet.
Yeah, to distribute it takes a little bit of a lag time. Like the FDA only allowed this like 5 minutes ago.
Yes.
So I don't think I think what these attorneys general were doing, were saying to Walgreens, hey, don't start fulfilling prescriptions for the abortion pill here. You may be at the federal level allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it at the state level. So here comes Newsom acting like he's this white horse, and the white horse. He's a hero riding in on a white horse. He's more of a jackass. And he has now said, as a follow-up to that initial statement that California is not going to do business with Walgreens, how can they? As a follow-up to that, he's now saying that the state of California is going to cancel, or not renew, rather, a $54 million contract that the state has with Walgreens for prescription drugs for persons within the California correctional system. So it appears that Walgreens was the vendor that California had a contract with for providing, prescription medications for inmates within California prisons. And Newsom is now indicating, because Walgreens has done this, that he's not going to renew this contract. Now,
okay, John. So I have to point out on this again. This is the Office tweet, not Newsom's original tweet, but
right.
This is Governor Newsom's office on Walgreens, tweeted by Ashley Zavala, who's this NBC reporter up there in Sacramento. California is reviewing all relationships between Walgreens and the state. We will not pursue business with companies that cave to right-wing bullies, pushing their extremist agenda, or companies that put politics above the health of women and girls. And my addendum to that is, we will only pursue business with companies that cave to left-wing bullies.
Right, like us.
Pursuing their extremist agenda. I mean, it's like the irony is almost unbearable.
Well, yeah, and it's also, I don't think it's Walgreens caving to right-wing politics. They're caving to state laws and the attorneys general of a number of states telling them, hey, you will be violating the law if you do this, and we're going to prosecute you or take legal action against you in whatever capacity if you try to do it. And Walgreens is basically taking the stance of, well,
okay, we won't break the law.
We're not going to actively break the law, and maybe this isn't the legal crusade for us to fight to vindicate our rights to distribute the abortion pill here.
But Newsom is basically demanding, if you want to keep doing business with California, you darn well better break the law in these red states.
Right.
And the hilarious thing to me, John, if I could put it in context of, there's been a lot of hullabaloo made over the fact that, Florida just, went after Disney. Mm-hmm. They took away some very special tax breaks.
Right.
there's other states around the country that are saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna ban like drag shows for kids or something like that."
Right. Well,
it would almost be like, to me, if Newsom said, "All right, Disney, we're gonna cut you off if you refuse to start putting on drag shows in all these other Republican-led states."
Well,
it's like,
yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone talks about Ron DeSantis for taking action against Disney or something. They talk about him like he's a fascist for doing so, for wielding the powers of Florida state government in a coercive way against companies that do things that he finds harmful. And everyone acts like this is this horrific thing. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom does the same thing and barely a blip on the register.
Yes.
And I also sort of wonder, I mean, the state of California is going to need to have a contract with somebody to, provide pharmaceuticals to inmates in the California prison system. I can't imagine if Walgreens is taking this position that CVS or Rite Aid are too far behind.
So, John, it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually saw a specific tweet from Melissa Melendez, another speaker, alongside yourself.
Former California State Senator Melissa Melendez.
Yeah. And she gave a great speech there at the March for Life as well. But she had this great line, if I can find it, essentially pointing out, okay, here you go. She replied to Ashley Zavala's tweet about the removal of the contract. And she said the same warning that Walgreens received was apparently also received by CVS, Albertsons, Rite Aid, Costco, and Walmart. If they all dare to actually follow the laws in states in which they operate, it might be kind of hard to find medication for inmates here in California.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is I feel like this is kind of premature on Newsom's part until he learns what all these other, pharmacies are going to do. Because I can't imagine, these entities kind of act similarly. I'd be, all of them agreed to fulfill, or almost all of the major ones anyway, agreed to fulfill prescriptions for the abortion pill.
Right.
I'd be surprised if they don't, sort of behave like birds of a feather in the decision not to provide it in states where it's illegal.
I think the only one so far...
I don't know that Costco has.
I don't know that Costco or Walmart have formally said that they're going to yet.
Right. All right, well, we'll be back, and we're going to keep digging into this topic after the break and let you know about some awesome stuff that's happening in Right to Life of Central California over this month. That's next on Right to Life Radio. Welcome back to Right to Life Radio. All right, guys, we have a lot of important stuff coming up this month out of Right to Life and Obria. Wednesday, March 16th is the Obria Medical Clinics of Central California, our first Be the One fundraising event at the Toca Madera Winery out in Madera. You can go to obria365.org to buy tickets or a sponsorship or make a donation. Please do that. This helps supports the work of the Obria Medical Clinics of Central California, our pro-life prenatal healthcare clinic that's doing great work helping lower-income women in the San Joaquin Valley with prenatal care from a pro-life perspective. Also, Thursday, March 30th, at the St. Paul Catholic Newman Center, we are hosting Gianna Jessen. She will be speaking there. She is a survivor of a late-term abortion attempt and a frequent testifier before Congress about those issues. If you want to learn more, go to righttolifeca.org/events, correct? And Colton is nodding yes. Go to righttolifeca.org/events if you want to learn more about that. All right. So, Jonathan, as we're wrapping up here, Gavin Newsom seems to be morphing into a different stage of his governorship.
He's molting.
Well, the way I've put it over the course of this week, not to get too political or anything, but I think this is going to be one of the biggest cases of senioritis we've ever seen in American history. He won his re-election. He beat off a recall. He's never going to get recalled again, and he figures, I could just coast. So he's not even giving a real State of the Union. He just gave a written State of the Union to the legislature. And now he seems to be spending most of his time tweeting about abortion-related stuff, how horrible Walgreens is for not providing the abortion pill, and basically tweeting about how horrible various Republican governors are. And I think this is an interesting point that I think is true. I've said this a lot about Gavin Newsom, that I think he is the servant of his various political masters.
Yes.
And the chief constituency that Newsom serves are very wealthy Bay Area donors who are not like that liberal fiscally. Like, we're not talking about Bernie Sanders or AOC types. These are people who like money.
Mm-hmm.
They like, they've capitalism.
They like their fancy Jenny's ice cream.
Capitalism,
in their huge freezer, and
yeah, exactly. Capitalism has been good to them. So they're not really AOC types. They don't want socialized medicine, as we see by Newsom never actually passing socialized medicine when he's had ample opportunity to do so and said he was going to do so. But what is the kind of stuff that really amps up that crowd? Well, it's social liberalism, and it's really aggressively promoting abortion, especially in the wake of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which I think furiously upset this crowd who wants to ensure that the poor have abortion available to them so that they, can deal with their problems. And they especially like it when Newsom does these kind of showy things where he's either attacking a Republican governor that this crowd doesn't like, or virtue signaling about, how horrible Walgreens is, that they're letting themselves be bullied by right-wing extremists. I think it's actually a very small crowd of people that Newsom is playing to, because I think he hopes that someday they'll give him all the money he needs so he can run for president.
Yep.
That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. We will see you next time on Power Talk. Okay, just because we have a bunch of other stuff that's gone on, we're going to do a podcast-only segment of Right to Life Radio here with me and Jonathan, where we'll kind of just go rapid fire through a couple of different stories that kind of caught our attention.
A smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord.
Smorgasburgy.
Exactly. So a couple of things that I thought were interesting. Now, Glenn Beck, who I usually don't talk about, Glenn Beck on a day-to-day basis. He is a host on this very fine radio program.
True.
He's the host of the Glenn Beck Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. here on Power Talk. Glenn Beck has somehow inserted himself personally into an interesting discussion about the history of Roe v. Wade by basically buying at auction an archive of historic documents relating to Roe v. Wade. Now, don't have to have listened to this show for too long to know that Roe v. Wade is the Supreme Court case that established the right to legal abortion. And basically what happened, one of the attorney who was representing Norma McCorvey, a.k.a. Jane Roe, who was a Texas woman who wanted to get an abortion. Her name was Linda Coffey, and she was a Dallas area lawyer who basically, she was looking for a plaintiff, basically with a mission to want to challenge the constitutionality of Texas's law banning abortion. And this Linda Coffey found Norma McCorvey and had her be the plaintiff for this case. And Linda Coffey is 80 years old. She had this sort of archive of records relating to the Roe v. Wade case, and she wanted to pass this on. So she had this up at auction, and instead of some pro-choice person buying it, somehow Glenn Beck, of all people, who is a conservative talk radio host and who is very pro-life,
yes,
he wound up bidding on it, and he won. So he bid something like over $600,000 for this. It must be nice to have that much laying around.
I will say, John, from going to his studio in Texas a couple of years ago and seeing this kind of very interesting museum, quote unquote, that he has, he's got a very eclectic collection. I'll just put it that way. He is.
Yeah.
He's made some big bucks between the radio and books and
TV and the Blaze and all that. Yeah.
That's a lot of walking around money.
Yeah. Well, that's what it sounds like. Now, I think this is actually pretty interesting. So she has an archive of documents relating to Roe v. Wade, and this is the story from the Blaze, which is Beck's news outlet website that he runs. According to the Los Angeles auction house, Nate D. Sanders Auctions, Coffey's collection, quote, documents the entire journey from the letter Coffey wrote to Sarah Weddington proposing that the two women work together to challenge the Texas abortion statute, to the receipt for $15 given to Coffey after filing the case in Texas, to the original affidavit signed by Norma McCorvey, a.k.a. Jane Roe, to the Supreme Court quill pens given to Coffey by the court after successfully arguing the case.
Wow.
The auction house noted further that the archive contains nearly 150 pages of documents and letters related to the case, plus personal effects such as Coffey's law license bestowed upon her in 1968, only 2 years before she would file Roe. So they've got the original notarized affidavit signed in blue ballpoint pen by Norma McCorvey, dated May 21st, 1970, as part of a motion for summary judgment. They've got Coffey's retained copy of the letter that she wrote to Sarah Weddington regarding the possibility of working together on the abortion case. Documents detailing each stage of Roe v. Wade as it progressed through the appellate system, and a variety of other documents pertaining to the case and landmark ruling. Now, I am interested in what Beck or Beck's people, and I hope Beck turns this over before he puts it in a museum. I hope he gets like a smart lawyer who knows a thing or two about abortion and about Roe v. Wade and about the significance of it for some analysis before he sticks it in his little museum thingy in Texas. Yeah. Because I do think there's a couple of interesting things. One is that Norma McCorvey, who was Jane Roe, so she was the woman at the center of the Roe v. Wade case. She was given a fictitious name, Jane Roe. It's kind of like John Doe. Basically, courts will give a party to a lawsuit in certain instances where it involves sensitive material or sensitive information. Courts can give a party in a lawsuit a fictitious name for the purpose of public filings and stuff, so as not to, harm the public standing or reputation in certain kinds of sensitive cases. And this was a case about a woman wanting an abortion. So I guess Texas sort of thought it was appropriate in that era, in that circumstance, to apply that name to her. Norma McCorvey, after Roe, became something of a pro-choice celebrity, and then she had this conversion experience where she wound up becoming a Roman Catholic. She became pro-life, and she became an advocate for the pro-life cause. And then towards the end of her life, did this weird interview with Vice where she said being pro-life was all a hoax, and I'm not sure. Yeah, she sort of, and it was a very kind of. I'm not sure what to think of her. Right. I feel like it's
a complex legacy, to put it mildly.
Yeah, and she had lived a very difficult life. So I guess I doubt that her entire posture of being pro-life was like, I really fail to think that was entirely a hoax.
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe she was bitter towards the end of her life. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure exactly what was going on. But at any rate, while she was pro-life, she filed this legal petition to try to get Roe v. Wade, her own case, overturned on the grounds that claiming that her attorneys had lied to her, or made her sign an affidavit that she hadn't really read, and various other irregularities with the case. Now, this ultimately proved unsuccessful. Roe v. Wade remained the law of the land. But I think it would be interesting historically. It's really, I think, going to be interesting historically to really comb through this 150 pages of documents to see if there is something in there that might have some bearing on the historical record of Roe. Because I feel like right now the historical record is probably one of sort of hero worship for these, wonderful these wonderful inspirational women attorneys who established the right to legal abortion. And I wonder if that history is really so clean and pure and wonderful and inspirational as the left wants to make it out to be. So at any rate, I think that's a very interesting thing. I look forward to Beck sort of talking more about it in the days to come. If he wants a radio host / attorney to go comb through the documents for him, Glenn, I'm available, baby. I'm available. Fellow iHeartRadio host here.
That's right.
Anyway,
It'd be good. Yeah, he could fly you there. You could dig through everything.
Yeah, have me be a guest on the show.
I will also tell you, again, from visiting that, I was there not with something specifically for the Blaze, but it was for another conservative conference, and we got a tour. Mm-hmm. He has like multiple movie props from like Star Wars and
it's got
Indiana
a lot of
Jones
Star Wars
movies.
Stuff.
Yeah. And he has, I think, like one of the original suits of armor that they used in filming Ben-Hur. It's kind of some cool stuff. And then in the non-Hollywood side of things, I think he does.
He's got a lot of historical, like American history type deals.
He does have, I think, I'm pretty sure it's every single president. I think he has a letter that was either handwritten or at least hand signed, at least one from every single
American
United States president.
Oh man, did Obama write him a letter?
Well,
back. Thank you for what did you?
I should say not. Yeah,
it's a bad Obama impression.
Not to him, but one that was. I mean, he has some correspondence. I should put it that way. Some correspondence.
I don't like you, and thank you very. All right, this is like turning into an Elvis impression. All right,
leave that to Jeremy Pierce. Come on,
yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah. Husband of Clovis City Councilwoman Diane Pierce, one of my favorite people.
That's right.
All right. The next bit of news. This is an interesting bit of news. How various legal dominoes are falling as a result of the overturning of Roe v. Wade in Florida. Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody won a victory for life Tuesday when a federal judge said the state may defund the billion-dollar abortion chain Planned Parenthood. I'm proud to secure a victory in our case about whether Floridians should be forced to fund Planned Parenthood. The court reinstated what the legislature passed in 2016, a ban on state funds supporting clinics that provide abortions, Moody said in a statement. The March 7th order from U.S. District Judge Robert L. Hinkle ends a permanent injunction that blocked the law for more than 6 years. Hinkle said the previous ruling was essentially based on Roe v. Wade. Because the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe in June in Dobbs v. Jackson, the judge agreed to reverse the decision and allow the law to go into effect starting June 1. The 2016 law prohibits state and local taxpayer funding to abortion facilities and their affiliates. It is not clear how many state tax dollars go to abortion facilities every year, but Planned Parenthood estimated in its 2016 lawsuit that it would lose about $500,000 annually. SBA Pro-Life America celebrated Hinkle's ruling Wednesday as a victory for the people of Florida and praised the Attorney General for her work to reinstate the law. Now, this is a different situation than here in California, to say the least.
Well, John, yeah. I just had to point out something also that is amazing to me. Just going back to the story in the main show about Gavin Newsom.
Yes.
On the one hand,
which we should talk more about him.
Yes.
Anyway,
on the one hand, Gavin Newsom, blackballing Walgreens is just ridiculous, and I think in many ways it is much more fascistic than most of the stuff that Ron DeSantis is doing with Disney or other things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's fascistic either. I think technically it's true. I mean, Newsom, I think, is within his rights. He can say, "Hey, we disagree with the corporate values of Walgreens, so we're going to defund them."
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that I feel like what people are doing with all this stuff is they just disagree with this politically. But when a conservative does something that they disagree with politically, they have to try to frame it in some allegedly value neutral, this is fundamentally attacking democracy for Ron DeSantis to not give this special favorite tax break to Disney because they did something that is bad.
Right.
Meanwhile, again, California does this all the time, and they do it all the time, usually because of stuff having to do with abortion.
Right.
Remember when California went on that manic streak of finding reasons why California won't do business with this state or this state or this state. Basically, any state that passes a law that restricts abortion in some way, any state that passes a law that attacks LGBT rights or something, any state that passes a law that California won't do business with them.
Right.
And basically what it meant was it would cut off state funding for discretionary state employee visits to those, travel to those states, but not that one thing that would actually matter. The only thing that would actually matter that involves state institutions traveling out of state would be college sports and CSU and UC colleges that have football teams or basketball teams traveling to other states. So, shocker of shockers, after this law passed, it wouldn't have prohibited, UCLA going to play the University of Georgia in Georgia. No, they can still travel to Georgia for football. The one thing that actually makes Georgia the most money, not whether the undersecretary of the system of Department of Managed Healthcare Resources can go to a conference that happens to be in Atlanta. No, we'll cut off that funding for that. He can't go to a conference in Atlanta, but UCLA can go to Georgia or Alabama and get a big old payday for a nationally televised football game.
And so here's
we're doing virtue signaling, but not in a way that would actually disrupt America's college football schedule.
Well, and here's the thing that's amazing that I said to a couple of other conservative friends. John, can you, from that story you just read, how much money would Florida defund Planned Parenthood here?
Looks like it was about $500,000.
Okay, $500,000. Literally, in this case of Gavin Newsom deciding to cancel the contract with Walgreens, 100 times more economic impact.
This is a $54 million contract that Gavin Newsom wants to cancel between the state of California and Walgreens. Why? Because Walgreens said we're not going to provide the abortion pill in states where it is illegal.
So literally in this case, they are saying in the case of Planned Parenthood defunding, which was, I mean, the left talked about every time during the Trump administration and any time a red state is trying to defund Planned Parenthood. Oh, this is an incredible assault on women's health care. It's like, no, we're talking about defunding a corporation that is breaking the law in our state.
Right.
So we're choosing. I can't believe that they're picking winners and losers. And then the other thing, John, that I know we've discussed this, that gets us so frustrated. Sometimes you have these really annoying conservative, free market conservatives that are like libertarian. They're like, well, we really shouldn't be using economic efforts to pick winners and losers in this regard. I'm like, look,
listen, buddy.
This is why we freaking lose, because you have in a good way. I'm kudos to Florida. I'm grateful that they're 100%. This is what they should be doing.
Right.
But the fact that Gavin Newsom is willing to not even blink before saying, all right, we're
out of here with Walgreens, and $54 million.
And literally not saying, okay, well, we're not going to partner with you on something that is even directly related to women's health care. It's literally like, we're going to make it that this completely unrelated thing that is drugs for incarcerated inmates.
Right.
All right, we're yanking your payday away over this. Could you imagine if conservatives had... I know we're on the bonus level, but just I'll keep it family friendly. They had the cojones to actually do what Gavin Newsom did here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, David French would be fainting. I mean, David French and all the boys at the Bulwark and the Remnant and all those guys. They would all those rock-ribbed conservatives in who are, opinion authors at the New York Times and the Washington Post who are barely conservative. Anyway, they would all absolutely lose it. So anyway, in short, I think Gavin Newsom is going to, we talked about this at the very end of the show. With that was kind of a good stinger for the end of the actual radio broadcast, talking about how and we'll wrap up the bonus the second hour with this. So I talked about at the end of the show. Newsom, I think, is morphing into a different kind of guy. He has no need now to appeal to voters at all because he knows that he's always going to get 60% of every voter in California. He basically, he knows he's not going to get recalled again because that was a disaster last time. He doesn't have to run for re-election anymore. Just got reelected. And so he's ramped up these attacks on red state governors and ramped up more and more rhetoric, particularly around abortion and this stunt with Walgreens. I really think that he's playing to a crowd of about 30 people, and that's really his constituency at this point. Gavin Newsom's rise to prominence in California, for those who don't know, he was lifelong family friends of the Getty family. And the Getty family is like, yes, that Getty family, like the Getty Museum, Getty's, Getty Oil Company, Getty's, billionaire, multi-billionaire, the Gettys. Gordon Getty, who I guess was kind of Newsom's generation of Getty, and a lifelong friend of Gavin Newsom, was an investor in all of Gavin Newsom's businesses that he had prior to entering California politics. Gordon Getty was part of Willie Brown, the longtime mayor of San Francisco. They referred to it as Willie Brown's magic circle. And it was this core of these old money San Francisco, very liberal political billionaires who were donors to Brown and to a bunch of Brown's proteges. And Brown actually appointed Newsom to his first political thing. He didn't get elected. He was appointed to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. And then with that support from Gordon Getty and Willie Brown's gang of billionaire donors, Newsom becomes mayor of San Francisco. He has all of that money and those connections, allows him to become the lieutenant governor. Then he becomes governor. And it's clear that Willie Brown's two most successful proteges are Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris.
Yep.
And Newsom obviously...
What a legacy.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. Newsom obviously thinks of himself. I think he can say he doesn't all he wants. I don't care. You can see it just from the way it oozes out of him. Clearly thinks of himself as a future president of the United States of America. Dun, 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 dun. I bet that's like his alarm clock in the morning. That's what he, as he rolls out of bed,
perfectly coiffed hair every day.
Having slept with someone else's wife. Anyway, I apologize. He only did that once.
Yeah.
That we know of publicly.
That he publicly apologized for.
Yeah. It's okay. It was his campaign manager's wife. So I think Gavin Newsom realizes the people he needs to keep in his corner are these multi-billionaire, fiscally they're fine with capitalism, but socially still incredibly liberal people. And how do you do that? By being very liberal on environmental issues that make them feel better about themselves, being really, really super liberal on social issues, especially abortion, and picking fights unnecessarily with Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott is a great way for Newsom to have a good standing with those people. And I think those people are really powerful. Exhibit A of why they are powerful is the fact that Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States.
Yep.
Yeah, which I've always said that
she had nothing really to...
There was no reason for Biden to pick her whatsoever. They had never worked together. They did not overlap when he was vice president. He left the vice presidency and then she became senator. They never overlapped. She insulted him during the 2020 primaries. Jill Biden reportedly hated her guts. They had no reason to like each other, and yet Biden picked her. Why? I think it's because of these ultra-rich billionaire California Democrat donors who basically said, she's the one that we want.
Yes.
That we want you to pick this person, and he complied. So I think Newsom is banking on Harris isn't looking so hot. I'm going to be a 2-term elected governor of California, and I want to keep my bread buttered well. I don't know whose bread we're buttering here, but anyway, he wants to make sure that he is in good standing with that crowd, because that is his ticket at some point, whether in 2024 if Biden decides not to run, or 2028 for Newsom to run for president. So, and I think his abortion activism is only going to get more extreme. I mean, we've always noted this, that Jerry Brown was less of an extremist on abortion than Newsom was.
On everything, basically.
On everything, yeah. But even on abortion.
But especially on abortion.
Jerry Brown vetoed like 2 or 3 really bad abortion bills in his last few years in office, including the campus abortion bill.
Right.
For having the abortion pill on CSU and UC campuses. Newsom signed that immediately.
Yep.
After he came into office. And I think it's a thing of, like, Jerry Brown was actually reasonable and cared about like basic ideas of good government, whereas Newsom is dedicated to, I want this crowd to be happy. I want to placate them and do what makes them happy. So I think he's going to continue to be a huge abortion activist. And I'm not sure that he's going to do much else, frankly, because again, I think we're going to see, 4 straight years of senioritis. All right, Jonathan, any other interesting abortion stuff before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think I would just, if I can make a personal plug,
Sure.
I would say if you want to go see John's phenomenal closing prayer and the hour and 10 minutes of content that came before his closing
There you
prayer,
go.
the March for Life is it was live streamed in totality. All 110 minutes of the show or of the rally was on our website. It's available. Well, I should say it's on our Facebook page. You go to californiafamily.org. Search for Facebook or just go to facebook.com/CaliforniaFamily. You can watch the entire rally. And if I do say so myself, I was the master of ceremonies.
I think you did a great job, by the way. I am very critical of masters of ceremonies, and I always feel like I could do a much better job than they can. And you did it. You did an admirable job,
well,
sir,
thank you.
because you actually you didn't do the thing of someone who needs no introduction, and it's like, maybe they do need an introduction,
just a bit,
just a little.
Yeah.
Not everyone is like a dyed-in-the-wool, pro-life activist like you are. So anyway,
and I tried to do that, but I tried to keep it moving because the other thing, John, the opposite end of that spectrum that I really kind of dislike
is the MC who talks and talks and talks.
Yes, the MC who gives a mini keynote in between every speaker.
Yeah, that's also bad.
Or he does. The only person that I did this with was I did do just a small point of personal privilege when I mentioned Lila Rose when I was introducing her.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. Sometimes you have MCs that literally they think that the notable thing about each speaker they're introducing is how they know
introduction.
me.
Yes. How do I know them?
Well, let me tell you about.
I remember meeting this person.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, everybody. righttolifeca.org/events to hear about our events coming up. And again, our Obria fundraiser on Thursday, March 16th. You can go to obria365.org to sign up for that. Thanks, folks.